It was fire, and so I'll take that. I'll take that as a win. It was a healthy thing. I'm learning how to be a cook.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Midwest Chicana Chingona. I have a lot of words to say here. And I am so excited. I have been waiting for this podcast for weeks, getting all these wonderful ladies here on this platform to talk about their stories and the topic around workplace bias and discrimination. And I just want to introduce myself. I'm Deanna Munoz, CEO, founder of Latino Arts Foundation, and the host of this podcast. And I have an amazing co-host, Diosselyn Tot. So everybody pretty much knows Diosselyn from other podcasts. But Diosselyn, how are you this evening?
Good. I am excited. I had just mentioned I was watching the AOC speech, so I am excited to talk about this topic today.
I know it came at a perfect time for this. Definitely, we're going to already have some fired up, amazing conversation with these amazing ladies, but I know that's going to even be more exciting. So I'd love for everyone here watching to meet our amazing panelists here. So let's do a round robin, and I'll kind of just start with who I see first. So Erica, hi, how are you? And thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you. I'm totally fired up too. I watched AOC's speech and I have a lot to say, but I'll just tell you that my name's Erica Garcia Babb. I'm from South Texas. I was a teacher for 4 years. I've been an engineer for 5, and I'm just excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, this panel looks just so beautiful, just sitting here like this. I'm just telling you, so I'm excited. Thank you, Erica, for being here, bringing your story. Okay, Irene, like I said before when we first started, you are phenomenal, and just to have you on this podcast, thank you so much. And Diosselyn was able to make that happen, so thank you. So Irene, tell us who you are and what you do.
Too nice. Irene Caudillo, I'm president and CEO of El Centro, a for-purpose organization that serves both Wyandotte and Johnson counties. And I, too, saw AOC and am thrilled about her words and just her ability to stand up as a Latina and say what she said.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're ready to get started. Laura, hi, how are you? And you have some amazing news to tell us, too.
Yeah, so my name is Laura Flores. I am a teacher at John F. Kennedy Elementary School here in Kansas City, Kansas. I just moved here in the neighborhood where I teach, and I just started in January. I just graduated from the University of Kansas with my visual art education degree. Got it up here on the wall, and yeah, I'm just excited to be teaching. It's been a whirlwind. I think I kind of have an advantage maybe though, just being flexible, being new, not having my set ways yet. So yeah, I'm definitely excited.
Thank you so much for being here, Laura, and congratulations. That's a huge win. So many luck to you. Kristen. So hi, Kristen. How are you? We have been trying to get on the platform together for a while before COVID.
Yes.
So I'm so excited to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I feel like we've been playing tag since last summer. So
yes,
this is finally it. I'm Kristen Altoro. I was just telling these ladies, I feel like I'm the real life Latina Hannah Montana, because by day for the last 10 years, I've been a personal banker in Kansas City. And then typically by night, I am a professional actress and singer in Kansas City. So, but there's no wig involved, no wig for me, but I'm excited to be here.
Check out her page. She's got some amazing videos out there for sure. So you do great work. Thanks for being here, Kristen. So Stephenie, how are you? We've had you on here for one of our last podcasts, and you were phenomenal with your husband Rodney. So just so excited to have you back, and you are going to be helping us in regards to this conversation because this is your work. You're going to bring your expertise and help us bring some actionable items out of here if we can. But definitely, a lot of our viewers are hungry for some conversation and how to maneuver this conversation. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Yes, thank you so much for the invite. It's an honor to share this platform with everyone. My name is Stephenie Smith, And, I was looking at your question of like, kind of, what do you do? And I was like, you know what, my goal is to help make things better, to create more just systems. And so Rodney, my husband, and I, we do that through our change management firm called Sophic Solutions. And so we just help organizations and people navigate change through an equity lens. And so excited to be here with everyone.
Thank you. I know this is going to be such a great conversation. Again, you guys all look amazing. So excited to get this started. So I know Diosselyn has some questions as my co-host. So let's get started, Diosselyn.
Yes, so I am excited to be here with all of you guys, strong and powerful women. And the question that I have is, how has your legacies been shaped as being a female going into the workplace? And what are some limitations that you guys have seen because of it? And at the same time, how have you guys overcome it? Those are 3 questions, I think. But yeah, whoever would like to go, Irene?
Yeah, I'll start. We're all shaped by, our experiences of upbringing. And I would say, as the youngest of 9 children, only one being female, older sister, the rest were all male. And I think one of the things that was very interesting was the dynamics of the 2 parents who valued education and talked about education. But by the time, so as an older sister, it was the typical, get married, housewife. By the time it got to the youngest 3, my parents shifted education, so that as a young youngest in the family being Latinas, that was the important way to go. Of course, it's difficult as, I'm much older than all of you here on the panel. So when I go into an environment at the University of Missouri in Columbia, I'm one of very few people of color. So you have parents who are saying, this is what you're going to do, and this is important to do. But then you have a culture and an environment that has you question. So by the time I got into the work, knowing that I was going to grad school and that I was going to work, I think the most difficult thing was I worked for Latino men who made it much more difficult than I think some other, folks that I've worked with, because of that masculinity and the perception that they had of Latinas in the workplace, almost subservient, like. So I learned what not to do, I guess is the best way to put it. What I knew I wasn't going to do as a personnel manager, and what I knew that needed to happen, and going back to my grandparents and parents about how do we lift, how do we bring people with us and lift. And for me, it was always important for people of color to see themselves and to continue to see ourselves in positions and places where we weren't normally. So I fought to sit at certain tables. I wanted to be everywhere and anywhere, not as the only voice though, but because we weren't invited a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think my experience really taught me, one, what not to do in certain ways, because it just didn't help any of us improve. And I think when I see the panel with these young Latinas, I think, oh my goodness, this is definitely where my parents and grandparents wanted to see for all of us.
And Irene, can I just add something on that? Because I'm just going to do this to you right now.
Okay.
You are passing the baton because I'm a CEO now, founder, because of you. Because you laid that pathway for me, not knowing who I was, didn't know anything about me, but you let me use your space to give kids an opportunity for free programming. And that is something I can never, I'm trying to repay it like every single day, but I think about that every time but I serve it anyone because they're always like, why do you do it at no cost? And it is because of people like you, Irene. I'm trying to give back what you gave back to me. So you are paving a way. And so thank you.
I'm gonna add
okay,
right under. I'm gonna add right under because honestly, it was Irene who brought me into community organizing. She sought me out and she called me, she talked to me, and I took I was so happy and glad to be, talked to by Irene. And when she gave me the opportunity, it was such an amazing journey. I learned so much. And honestly, I would sit in her, if I could, I would just kind of be like, do you have 5 minutes, Irene? And I would go to her office and just sit there and talk to her as much as I could. I respect, love, and admire Irene so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it's about, not to love Irene, but I mean, I think what it's about is, it's not, we don't always get a paved road. We don't always get an open door. But if there's a crack in a window, I always tell people, let's take it. Let's find a way to open that and get in. And the only way to do that is to really build on the potential. You guys had vision. You guys have passion. And what better way to be able to help our community? I love you guys to death because you have to understand, you don't learn from me. I learn so much more from you because you have the pulse. You have the ear to the ground. Sometimes I'm so distant, I feel like I always have to learn, but we have to bring folks with us in order to, one, I think Stephenie said it well, we have to leave it better than the way we found it. And I got to think about what my grandkids and kids are going to experience. And I want much, like my grandparents and parents, I want much better for them than what I had.
Absolutely. Great answer. Thank you so much, Irene. Okay, Laura, do you want to go next?
Irene.
Oh, yeah, Kristen, go ahead. Yes.
I was going to say, I want to know Irene.
This is a great networking right here. See, afterwards, connect with Irene. You're going to have your DMs blown up, Irene. You're better
there
get ready.
You go. Have all my penciled in lunches that I didn't have with Diosselyn.
Yeah,
I still owe her a lot. You guys are making me.
Love it. I love it. Oh my God. You're like, love you. Okay, nice. Laura, how about you answering the question below? I hope everyone can see that down there, so that way it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, I can see it. So my experience, I'm still very young. I'm 24. I started my first job at Chipotle probably a few years ago. And I thought maybe for a while that was going to be my career just because it was hard. I was not necessarily a first generation student, but it felt like it, not having support. But I was really good at school, and I had my daughter my first year, and most of my support came from my husband. His name's Flores, shout out, I guess. And he's the one who supported me all the way because I was getting the grades to go full ride at KU, and that was the only thing pushing me through on top of having my daughter, and just like, I cannot let go of a full ride. And so when things got hard, I had to take on a job because my husband, it was not enough with his job. And so working part-time, working my way up to kitchen manager, then to service manager, the struggles just had, like the struggle I had with my boss, who was indigenous Mexican man, immigrant, who just still so sexist, just so much struggle and fight between me and him. Like, yeah, you promote me, you support me? Question mark, just there's so much push and pull. He wants, and just trust, and even then continuous, struggles even after I've gone with a lot of, I guess, service industry issues. And so that's where my passion was for the longest. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just stick around here because I'm good at it now. And luckily I got over that very quickly because that degree came sooner than I thought. I was like, oh, wow, I'm actually going to have a job in the career that I want. And so starting as a teacher, I was in a honeymoon phase for like a month and a half. My kids were in a honeymoon phase. They were like, oh, we have an art teacher finally, because they had a long-term sub and he was great, but they just weren't getting that like sustenance of like what good art education is at the elementary level, because they didn't have an art teacher. So I come in, we're having a great time, and then it's the middle of the year, so then they get over that honeymoon phase. We're struggling. It was a power struggle in the classroom, managing the class for the first time, just trying to get my ropes and trying to figure out like what these kids need, not necessarily what their parents do. I know what they grew up with, just like being really hard on them. Do I give them the same thing that maybe I know their parents might be acting towards them, or do I be a little more gentle? And so that was kind of push and pull until quarantine, of course, and that was a whole nother challenge. But within the workplace, it's just like before I even started, there was just encounters with current coworkers who, I guess, I actually had a coworker come to me crying because there's finally a Latina teacher and representation, but crying. I'm like, I don't need this right now. Like, yes, great, but wow, you were too much, white lady. It was a lot. And so like getting my ropes in the workplace, trying to figure out who my coworkers were, luckily not having to work too close with them like I would have to at Chipotle, working so close with my coworkers and having a little more free reign. It was kind of like no one teaches you how to socialize with your coworkers and then how to approach, workplace relationships. And so that was something that was a big stressor for a long time until we went on quarantine, which kind of helped me out because I was stressed out, because I was seeing behaviors not just from students but caused by teachers. And they're blaming it on the student, and I mean outright calling student the B word behind their back. I'm like, you're talking about a fifth grader. So like there's a lot going on at the elementary level, which was so surprising to me, against our own students, Black students of color, like Hawaiian, and like just got a good mixture over here at JFK. And just, I just felt like comment, why women can be a weapon or a burden. And I'm just like, it's a lot. And so like luckily, I think my principal's really understanding. I've been hearing mixed things, but I proposed the idea of having some type of equity committee, because I don't want to join the social committee or whatever they have. I'm just gonna just go in, with my feet running on the ground and try to get this equity committee started at the elementary level. I'm still kind of trying to figure out like what is going on with the district. There's a lot I know to catch up on since I've been gone in Lawrence and learning Lawrence. Now I have to come back and learn Kansas City all over again from a new perspective. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of work to be done.
I'm just so excited that you started the equity group, because that's showing right there, you are taking charge and you're going to make changes, because a lot of people just kind of just let things happen or let it go. And for you to take a stand and like, I'm going to do something about this, it's going to be probably really hard, but you're still going to do it. And I just applaud you for taking that opportunity.
I think the time is so right for things like that. So I too appreciate you taking that step, because now we have to take action.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. And as a teacher, as somebody who taught for 4 years, I just want to tell you that everybody's first year is hard. Just want you to know that everybody's first year is hard. So, and you've got COVID on top of that. So my goodness. Yeah. So
we're back online again for another 9 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to tell you that it's hard for everybody.
I was going to say, celebrate your age, because you are young and you are doing this.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes. We're here.
After 25.
I hope
not. Young. Wow.
At least for me.
It only gets better. You get wise Because what I was going to say is Irene just simply put on a leadership masterclass. And so, when we talk about, and even, the story that you shared about your first year of school, a first year of teaching, you're talking about paradigm shifting. And I think the greatest thing that we can know, first of all, I always believe that the word woman is a verb. We are always doing, we are always creating, nurturing, manifesting. And so, Diosselyn, you asked the question, and I love the word you use, legacy. And so when I think about myself as a woman, I recognize that I'm the daughter of Beverly, who is the daughter of Autry, right? Who is the daughter of, who is the daughter of. And so I guess for me, it is just so empowering. And that is a reminder that anything that needs to happen, we can do it. And so when we talk about going into these workspaces, experiencing these difficult men and other experiences and people, what we know is that we have the power to shift. And so I guess for me, what I'm hearing already, which is so true, is that things don't have to be how they've always been. And we can be the changers. And so coming in, whether it's creating an equity committee, whether it's standing tall, whether it's taking, a crowbar and cocking up the rest of that window to get through it. I think it is about the legacy of being a woman is about being a shifter and being a creator. And when we talk about discrimination or whatever the isms are that we experience, it's about doing the work to acknowledge them and address them. So I'm excited because I'm listening to your stories both and saying, this is it. Like, this is the masterclass on how we navigate and change the systems that are creating so much oppression. So thanks.
No, that's perfect. That's the perfect roundabout. But I want to give Kristen and Erica a chance to also tell us this, answer this question as well. Kristen, do you want to go next and kind of give us your insight?
Yeah, of course. I've been absorbing a lot of this information here, and I can relate on many levels to the stories that I've already been told. It's interesting because I guess you can say that I have these two different career paths. You have finances and then you have performance industry. So I'll speak more along the performance industry path because I feel like there's a lot of limitations that I have faced, not just as a woman, but a Puerto Rican woman, a woman of color. And also the limitation of being a plus size female. Like, there's so many categories of being a woman that, create these limitations for people. And it's absolutely ridiculous. But so my career started in Kansas City when I was 19 years old. I coasted on being a young singer at that time. I just did whatever was handed to me. I kind of just had to get to know people and make my way in the industry. So I was like, well, I guess I got to just do whatever people say. And then there came to a point, I think when I was about 24, when I was like, you know what? I actually really don't have to do that. I can make my own path, kind of like what you were saying, Stephenie, is I was so stuck in just being in this one path that people had set for me, or the path that I figured I need to be in order to have a successful career. And then I just ended up unhappy and kind of disappointed in myself because I was like, you know what, I really don't want this. And I'm just going to now try to do something different. I think the limitations I started to face was when I guess you could say when the most recent administration came into effect in 2016. That is when I fully was made aware that you are a Latina and some people don't believe you have a place here. And that was a really big awakening for me. And those limitations were, oh, well, why aren't there many more Latinx shows in musical theater? Why do I, as a racially ambiguous female, have to play a white female and have to decrease myself in order to fit into this idea of an ingenue, or of a white ingenue who's dainty, who's delicate? And that's what women were in the performance industry. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm having that. I can't be on the right side of history, and then also say that I love musical theater and I'm going to still be a part of it, if that makes any sense. But those are the limitations I faced a lot. I've had people tell me you're not dark enough. I've had people tell me you're not light enough. I've had people tell me, you can tell that you're not a white girl, so we won't fit you in this role. And then I've had the exact opposite. And I overcame it by just still going, like, I mean, there was no other choice. Like, I could either allow that limitation to actually exist and become an obstacle, or I can say that limitation exists for other people maybe, but not for me. And I'm going to keep going and keep making my own path. And a lot of the times people were like, well, you got to be patient, let this make room for you, or let them make room for me. No, I wasn't having that. I'm the kind of person where I'm like, I'm going to make room for myself, and I'm going to put myself in here. So a lot of those limitations that people set on me are still there, makes me very sad. I fight a lot for representation for brown women in theater, and for our stories to be told. We have two stories. One is West Side Story and one is In the Heights, and they're decades apart. And that's all we got. And so I fight for, Latino women to be more in those roles, and to just keep doing that myself. I tear down my own limitations, I guess.
Much respect. Yes, I like that. You tear down your own limitations. You don't let them actually be your limitations. That's awesome. That's awesome.
No, yes. Doesn't mean it's easy, though. I think we can all attest that it sometimes we want to get behind those limitations, and we were like, you know what, let's just walk the path others have designed for me, because that's a lot easier. But why make life easy,
And yeah, I think there's something to be said that you noticed that there was this gap, and you're like, what's going on? And realizing that you had an opportunity to do something about it. That's amazing.
All right, I guess that means it's my turn. I feel kind of nervous, but so I just want to share that I am the descendant of people from South Texas whose the border crossed them. They didn't cross the border. And I grew up in a time where, actually I should say my parents grew up in a time where people were being asked to assimilate in that area. Whenever they went, my parents, if they spoke Spanish in school, they would end up in the principal's office. So whenever it came time to raise me and my sisters, sadly, they didn't teach us Spanish, And so now if I go to Mexico, they call me gringa. But here, as you mentioned, this administration doesn't think I belong here, right? So these are some of the things that I've when I was growing up in South Texas, didn't recognize, didn't know. I didn't really understand that I was a minority. I just knew I was an American. I was from Texas, and this is my upbringing. And majority of the people down there where I'm from were also Latinos, right? So you don't really even recognize that you're a minority. Well, I happened to move to Kansas in 2016. And that was right about the time that I realized that I was a minority, not only because of the new location, but also the new administration, right? And I worked in a couple of different areas. As I said earlier, I was a teacher for 4 years, and I've been an engineer for 5. And I have found myself many, many times being the only Latino in the room, the only woman in the room. I've come from a family where my mom had my sister at 16. My other sisters had their first kids at 18, and everybody probably thought I was going to do the same thing. But I also still had parents that told me I could do anything in the whole wide world. And I believed them. Is really, at the end of the day, what happened. They told me when I was in the first grade, I wanted to be the first woman president. I suppose that's still out there, but I don't know about that. Anyway, but yeah, I was just lucky to have a really, really good support system. I had amazing teachers. I had amazing classmates, and eventually earned an engineering degree. And I did not have a child at 16 or 18, which is, I know it's not necessarily an accomplishment, but it's pretty much what was expected of me, I guess you could say.
Thank you for sharing that. I think you brought up great points. Even like, you're saying that that expectation that is set for us. I think I definitely felt that when I was younger. I felt that a lot of my friends around me were having kids and everything, and a lot of individuals actually, when I got into Sumner, my friends were making bets to see how long I would stay in Sumner Academy, and trying to figure out if I could make it, etc. So yeah, there were several things that were expected from me, and I can say that for my group of friends from middle school, I was the only one that graduated and got to college, and it was out of 6 of my group members. So there's definitely those things. And talking about the administration, oh man, that's a whole nother subject. But I'm glad you brought it up, and I think I'm gonna state what Kathy said, that if women like you guys aren't there and showing us that pathway, then honestly, there wouldn't be a pathway for us to follow. If Irene wouldn't have shown me the way of organizing and sat down with me and explained to me how things were, then I would have never got as invested as I am today. So there's definitely a lot that everybody's experience brings forward to us. So thank you for sharing and bringing all those points, because I think they are important, all of them.
I appreciate that so much. And Stephenie, I want to just tell you, you inspire me, because my mindset and thinking when I got into this role of CEO and founder was very limited. And I still have a lot of chips on my shoulder, but I think that's just something that comes along with your history and your upbringing, what's happened around you, always being told you're never going to make it to that far, and just not the support system. So I was a little different, Erica. I didn't have a strong support system, because my family didn't have a strong support system. And I did have a son at 16, and then he's 27 now. He's graduating college, and he's going to be an accountant. And so I think on that same level, you just think that he could have went that path of not doing anything with his life. He really could, but it was up to me and his father to make sure that he did not end up a statistic, and really had a huge support system. I mean, very opposite of what I experienced in my own life. But Stephenie, I just want to get your feedback on all of this that you just heard, because you inspire me of thinking, I want to say in like in a positive way, but also very real, like because what you talk about and how you make me feel and how you bring it out in the world really is a way I want to think. But it's sometimes hard. It's hard to always process it. And it's like, I don't think that's me. But then at the end of the day, I kind of rethink it. I'm like, it could be. So I'd love your thoughts on this. Yeah.
No, I think the struggles that that many of you all talked about, I think we share this disqualifying the positive. For every person that said that we could make it, there are a whole host of others that said that we couldn't, or that X, Y, and Z was going to happen. And so the question is, what are we replacing those thoughts with? And so being in these type of spaces where we can share, we can affirm one another, we can validate those feelings, and we can just be told, girlfriend, you are not crazy. Yep, that happened, and that wasn't right. Or, you know what, you're kind of tripping right there. So being able to have this circle of accountability. And I was just talking, I was with some women that lift me up earlier today, and we were talking about the same thing. So these circles of trust and accountability, when we talk about sustainable behavioral change, we're talking about that happening within a social construct. So I think we always have to look to our left and our right to see who is with us, who is standing by us, who is lifting us up. Sometimes who are we lifting up, because that's what it takes. And so the storytelling is extremely important. Once again, I think this cultural humility, understanding and acknowledging the things that have happened to us and through us, and making a choice about, how do I move forward in this? Do I want to continue this pattern, or do I want to break that pattern? And those are the choices that we have. And so I think it's just about awareness. Any change starts with us. And so once we identify where we're at, we get to decide what those next steps are. And sometimes that's hard, because you have all kind of pressures and pressing that happens. But once again, that's the power of community. That's the power of having elders around. that's the power of having people younger than us around, because perspective brings enlightenment, right? Perspective gives us permission to think about it in a different way. And I feel really blessed that you all are allowing me as a Black woman to sit in this circle with you as Latinas who have experiences. And I see so much alignment, so many things that are happening and a part of your stories that are a part of the stories that me and my fellow Black queens, what we are experiencing. And Deanna, we talked about this, Deanna, the importance of us being together and sharing these stories together, because so often what the world will try to say is that we are so different, Black in the Latinx community, and that there's such this chasm. But the truth is that we are right here side by side, fighting oppression, breaking barriers, being great, and changing the world. And so thank you all so much for allowing me to sit in this space with you.
Oh, this is why we wanted you here. We're building bridges always. And I think this is where it starts, right? And you didn't even hesitate to come on here. You were like, yes, let's do it. Diosselyn, I know you might have some more questions. I just want to kind of bring something up that was brought up recently, because this is so important, and she's a Latina as well. So the issue that happened with AOC, I would love some feedback on that, just because it just happened. She's a Latina. I've watched her journey, I'm sure most of you have watched her journey to becoming, who she is today. And I'm sure the many, many things, and we've seen the many, many things she's had to deal with. But this hit me hard, because I have been in situations where people have not called me that exact word, but have called me enough to where if it was a man they had told, he probably would have been promoted or risen higher. But since I was a woman, it was a degradation, and I actually had to go to programs to control myself. So I would absolutely love whoever wants to start to talk about that, and just in general of, and women do it too. It's not just men, just that piece of, how do you handle it? Has it happened? And Stephenie, if you can bring any advice in here and things to add on as well, please.
You want to comment on her reaction to the other representative that disrespected her on the steps of the Capitol? So first of all, that it was done in the workplace, in a place that we as a country have placed them there, number one. They work for us. So first of all, I was probably more angry after the gentleman, I'll call him a gentleman, I'll call him a representative, after the representative actually tried to give a weak apology, what made me even more angry. But what she did on that floor was not only call out the disrespect. She wasn't hurt by it. I mean, in other words, she made it very clear she's from New York. She's heard that before, right? She didn't personalize it, but what she did was very much indicate how his discussion about having a wife and kids and not doing it, he didn't apologize. And she very well, she was calm, cool, and collected in her comeback in a way that said, for men in particular, we have to stop this disrespect to our women, to women, period. And so I was, I loved the part when she said, I'm glad my father wasn't here to see the way you treated his daughter, but my mother was. We have to do more of that. She called him out, didn't disrespect him, but she also indicated that's not the way that that we as a country should be. I mean, she's heard it from the president on down, but her reaction to me was incredible. I mean, she gave me chills, but she is also a woman that I can't tell you enough about the admiration I have for her, how far she's come and what paths she's created, and the advocacy she does for not just the folks, her constituency, but the entire country. But that representative, it was just insulting. It was disrespectful and insulting. And I think her reaction was just spot on.
I can't agree more. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add that, I think that for far too long, we've been expected to stay silent. We've been expected to hear words like that and just take it home, and it shouldn't be a big deal. So when somebody does make a big deal, when somebody does go to management or go to HR and say, somebody said this to me, a lot of times we don't get the support because we're supposed to just internalize that for whatever reason. And so I have a lot of respect for her for using her voice the way she did today. I thought about sharing a story, but I won't go into detail on it. But I did have an event at work once where I had to speak with HR. I know I told you about it, Deanna. I won't go into detail, but one of the things that I said to him was, I was forced to listen to his apology. And so anyway, my response to him was, I'm less upset about what you said to me and more upset that you made me have to make a choice to either take this home and be quiet and let this be okay, so that when you do it to the next person, it's, well, she was okay with it, right? Or speak up, go to management, potentially be mistreated, in the future, so on and so forth. And but still also potentially make it harder for the next person because, last time we hired a woman at this job, this is the drama that she brought, right? So I was more upset about what he said to me I was more upset that he said it than I was at what he said, because he put me in that position. Because like we talked about earlier, you want to open doors for the next person, right? You want to leave space for the next person. So every time one of those events happened, you're put in a tough spot, right? You're almost damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I have complete and utter respect for the way that AOC handled everything today.
Erica, you hit that right on the head, and it just made me go back to my own experiences with about 3 or 4 male people that everybody loved in the workplace. Everybody loves in the workplace, but because there were issues, and you are the one that they made feel like you were crazy. You go home with that. You go home and it builds up, because you if you go to HR, HR works for the company, so they're not going to support you at the end of the day. They have ER, which is supposed to support you, but again, they work for the company, not for you. So at the end of the day, you have no one to reach out to, and you have to live with this. And if you talk to it about, you have to trust the people you work with, because then that could even overflow and you become this trouble person,
right.
know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I looked out of meetings. There was some managers that didn't talk to me unless I talked to them. It was, for lack of a better term, probably hostile. It's probably the right word. I mean, you're left in this environment that doesn't feel safe or anymore. It doesn't. And you're at work 40 hours a week,
Yeah.
I think even a worse part of that, before Kristen, just real quick, is I even got to a point where they would ignore me. So I would send emails, they would ignore. I would try to talk, ignore. And the thought of anyone being a minority, ignored. Don't talk about D&I. We don't want anything about it. It's just going to be, everything's going to be like, it's all a good day. Everybody's equal, and we're never going to speak of this again.
So when I think about the two of you and the discussion about workplace, I've often had conversations with people where I say, you've got to speak up so that the next person coming in, we can make that a right. And it's easier said than done. Because of what you experience. Some of these microaggression and biases and discrimination that you described is really kind of where we have to get to. ignoring the whole pinning it on one person. So there's a decision we have to make. How do we make that change for the next person, or how do we move on? You know, because I have also coached people. It's easier said than done. It's easier to say, I love my job, I like this job, but the culture is toxic, and I don't know if I can do it. Or I've tried and there's no change I can make. No one deserves to be in a workplace environment like that.
Right.
But now is the time to hold people accountable. And we've got to begin to change and get folks to understand. And then this is also not easy either. This is Stephenie's work, where, you know, when we self-realize, but we also have to we have to understand where people are, because some of it's unconscious bias. Some of it is just, again, our experience. We bring in what we experience and what we know. You know, a lot of it I don't want to write off because I know people know better. But we have to also acknowledge we don't know where people are because we don't know their experience either. But as we grow, with being more people of color in the workplace, we can't ignore our culture. We can't ignore our background. We can't ignore our education. We have got to begin to start making sure that our experiences are for the next folks coming in, you know, are totally changed for the better. And sometimes it means this is not the place I need to be. I have coached people that way. The worst thing to do when it's their passion and their love. Yeah. But if we can find some other place that is accepting and a place where you can belong, then we hold the others accountable in some other way. But now's the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let me grab, before you start, Stephenie, I'm going to grab Kristen. I know she's been wanting to say something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I never like to jump in when people talk. And so I'm always like, and then I just back away, which is kind of funny because then when I start talking, I can't stop, but I promise I'll stop. You know, I have a couple of opinions as far as this whole situation goes. First of all, AOC is my hero. She is like my superhero. She's from the Bronx. She's Puerto Rican. So it's like I literally see bonds with such grace and with such class. And so I can appreciate everything that she has done. And she's never been afraid to be herself either. And to be honest with people. My next thing is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I appreciate the class. I'm so sick of having to apologize or accept and listen to men apologize. I'm so sick of having to explain why they need to respect me as a woman, why your microaggressions are BS, and why you need to understand my heritage and why you need to be respectful of it. I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. It's like, yeah, I'll respond to you with grace and class because I'm a cordial human being. But also at the end of the day, you need to get it together and stop disrespecting me. And you just need to grow up. And it's just for me, I'm just like, when is it going to end? Am I going to have to be the cordial and civil one that speaks up and says that's not okay every single time? Or are, you know, men, specifically white men and white females, going to start, you know, getting the picture? So that way I don't have to educate you anymore or just teach you that you have to respect me just as a human being. So I love her and I respect her. And I think that her response was absolutely beautiful for her to say, you know, I am someone's daughter. That in itself is so powerful. Like, I think that's what we forget too about a lot of people is that we are people's children. We are people's sisters and friends. And, you know, that statement alone was all anybody needed to hear. But at the end of the day, I'm like, and I'm sure she's wondering too, like, I'm just sick of having to sit and listen to this crap. And I'm sick of having to be the one that has to formulate this eloquent speech saying, let me be the bigger person and not be affected. Like, I'm affected. I'm pissed off. And you should hear about it, why I'm pissed off. Why do I have to be eloquent to clean up your mess? Like, that's my whole thing right now. Right. And I too, Erica, I have dealt with recently some microaggression in my workplace. I do love my job very much. I love the company I work for. There was an experience where somebody called me Carmen the entire day and thought it was funny and goes, I don't know why I keep calling you Carmen. And I was like, I don't know why either, but you need to stop. And like, it's little things like that. But then it was funny because I talked about it on my Facebook, and for the white people in the comments and watching, I'm sorry, when I say white people, I'm not trying to mean it to attack you or to be derogatory. It's just, it is what it is. So the majority of my comments were from white people who were like, report it to HR. And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm a woman, first of all. I got to report to HR, these two big wig guys. How do you think that's going to work out for me? And then on top of that, I'm a Latina. How do you think that's going to work out for me? And so it's this big thing of, right now I'm in this place of just frustration and confusion as a Latina, because I'm sick of explaining and excusing people for who I am and for disrespecting me and saying, you know what, I'm going to speak up against your apology and be the bigger person because clearly you're not. And it kind of sucks because I feel like it stifles me from, publicly feeling something and expressing that I feel some way, because I don't want to be written off as a hot-headed Latina who didn't get her way. I have to be the bigger person. So that's what's really frustrating right now. I'm empowered and I'm frustrated at the same time. So that was my hot take that I wanted to say.
I think we also have to understand that we have been raised with the idea that we have to do better, be more, be like this, and that's, again, we're taking accountability. As you said, we're taking the accountability for what someone else is doing. And yes, for you to go to HR is a lot easier for someone to say than to actually do. But we have got to stop feeling like we don't belong. And there is a definite sense of who we are and what we do. That, you know what I'm upset about? I'm very upset about your Carmen comment. That is in itself, the prime example of microaggression that is, to me, not an unconscious. It's very conscious that it's happening. And those things, again, as difficult as they are, we have to begin to start finding our way to be able to explain what, or not explain, decide what we want, and really, again, somehow make a difference for that pathway we're trying to create for others, and create a culture that is an accepting and belonging culture.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I think is so important for us to say out loud to ourselves and to others, I am not inferior. And so often, and I always say that microaggressions deserve a macro response. So microaggressions deserve macro responses, meaning that it needs to be taken to the organization. And I know it's not hard. I've been there. I've worked in the nonprofit world, which at times can be some of the most oppressive environments, because it is naturally assumed that it is such an altruistic place and everybody is kind, and it's one of the nice, nastiest spaces, around, right? And so, but it is, Yes, yes. And so, and so a couple of things. Isms, all isms, any ism, they thrive in silence. They depend on silence, right? So when we are silent, that's when it really gets busy. And so, you know, what we can do or anything that we can do to counteract the silence really helps to break down the power of isms. Racism, classism, sexism, I mean, any and all of the isms, is that we have to find our voice in it, understanding that it is not easy, but, you know, beginning to create and have someone, a support, either within the institution or outside of it, can really help weather that. Things that we've always been told, but the power of documentation. I mean, we are here within the society, kind of our social political platform or landscape right now, because of documentation, right? Because people said, I am not going to let this happen in silence. I'm going to put this out here and I'm going to record it. So we have to begin to document what is happening to us, whether we are writing it down or however, but we need to document what is happening so that we can have that. And I'll repeat the reminder about being treated as inferior, because the whole system of isms count on us believing that, right? It counts on us believing that we are inferior and that we do not have a voice, and that is really the launching pad for the continued behavior. And so we have to counteract that belief. One Arthur, and we talk about this a lot, said one of the things, the thing that makes many white people feel as though they are extraordinary is because they believe they're extraordinary. And the thing that stops so many people of color from thinking that we are extraordinary is that we don't think that we're extraordinary. And so how can we shift our minds? And I understand why. When you get beaten down every day from media, from go to work, walk down the street, and you're told all these negative messages. And so once again, how do we guard ourselves and protect ourselves? But it's something, Irene, that you shared about, and this powerful reminder of about us not internalizing these negative messages. Because when we begin to believe it, then that is the beginning, right? That's when it, that's right. That's when it begins to all fall down. So I just encourage us to fight the temptation of assimilation and to remind employers that the opposite of othering is not saming, right? So you can't other me. You are different. And then say, well, if you want to be with us, then change how you talk, change your hair, change what you wear. Don't be so colorful, right? Don't you tone it down, right? Yeah, so the opposite of othering is not saming. In fact, instead, it is belonging. So how do we create spaces of belonging? And that is driven through cultural humility. But we have got to acknowledge and call out white supremacy and realize that that white supremacy is an equal opportunity employer. So even we ourselves as Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, we can also, portray and project some of the white supremacy standards as well. So we have got to be conscious about the white supremacy that we dwell within, that we all have been raised in, and do the work of unlearning those things, finding our voice, and calling it out.
Thank you.
The other thing that's important in all of this too is that, when there are many people standing up right now, many white people standing up right now, that we tend to call our allies. And I use this a lot. There's great allies. It's time, it's not enough for them to stand up and stand with it. Well, I should say stand with, because it's going beyond this statement, right? That the statement after George Floyd, everybody put out a wonderful, Black Lives Matter. This is so when I think about the next steps in particular of our white allies, is it's now time for them to do more, to take that step. And so they're going to self-recognize and be self-aware, but there's more that they can do to help also change that culture. So we have to utilize them in a way that says, I love that you're standing and marching with me. I love that you have that Black Lives Matter sign. But now it's time for you, because I need help, and we need to take action, and we need to move.
And that also includes like doing that internal work, like that white lady who's crying because she's representation. Like, you don't realize that that's a microaggression within itself. Like, and just among other things, just, you know, look at yourself, look into yourself and what you're doing and how you benefit from white supremacy and how you leverage your whiteness in the workplace. And also, when we say white people, it's never assumed that all white people, because every time it's a Black person does something, or a Mexican crosses the border and commits a crime, it's all Mexican people or it's all Black people. It's never going to be all white people. So that's why I'm going to keep saying white people without being apologetic about it being a blanket statement. Like, it's never going to be that way because of the systematic structure of what white supremacy is. And so the fact that even AOC, even though she was calm and collected, she's probably still going to be painted in that really harsh picture. She needs to tone it down just because she's saying something, even though she was a class act, you know? And it's frustrating. Like, no matter how good you are, you're never going to be enough for them. And I really like what I think it was Stephenie said about like not internalizing it, because I will hear that voice inside just telling me that I'm not good enough. And that comes from everywhere, you know? And just in general, this whole conversation is about power over women, and the fact that he had a mention, and she has to associate her value as in relation to someone else and not just as a person.
That's it right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's point blank period. Like, I don't know what else to go off of that.
Did y'all notice her red blazer? I felt like that kind of, she was not toning it down. She was saying what she had to say, and her clothes, her attitude, everything was loud and proud today. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Well, I know we are about to we are over time, and I don't want to keep you all, but this conversation could keep going and going, because I actually had some questions. I know Diosselyn did too. We had one about tokenization. That's something I'm dealing with right now in the not-for-profit world. And Stephenie, I'll have to tell you some of the things that are happening right now. Maybe you can guide me, because
don't get sucked in.
Tokenization is real. It is so real. And you're right. The not-for-profit world is not always a friendly place. There are a couple friendly people, and there's a lot of misogyny. There's a lot of sexism. There's just everything under the sun. And it is blinded because people think that it's a safe space, and it should be a safe space because you do things for the communities, and not everybody's out for the right things. So I'm just going to say that loud and clear, because that is my voice, my message. And I think I put a Facebook post out there in regards to the fact that I will never associate with anyone that works against anyone in this community, and whether that be LGBTQ, the fact that you're a different color, anything. I will not support you. I will not work with you, and I will not ever talk to you, because no matter at the age you are and the age that your organization is, you should know better. And it is time for us to stop saying you will get better, because you should be doing that on your own. And I'm not going to be the one to change that for you. So I know I probably maybe not the right thing to say, but it's the truth. And I don't want, and if I can just say one thing here, because the comments that I had after that post surprised me and hurt me. And what I'm going to say to everybody out there that was like, well, you know what happens, and people, just let it go and you just move on. You don't realize that the people behind you that are looking up to you, the people that are trying their hardest to get to the space you're in right now, are going to either be traumatized or destroyed because of what you allowed to continue to happen. If we don't stop this now, it's going to continue, and my own kids are going to be hurt by it. And I'm going to tell you one thing, that is not going to happen. And if I'm still alive and working in this stream and outlet right now, that is not going to happen. So I stood my ground, and I'm going to get, like I said, we don't have funding anyways. So we're still trucking along for over 10 years. So you can make it happen. You don't have to give in to white supremacy. You don't have to give in to sexism. You don't have to give in to people that want to hurt other people just because you need money or you need their guidance. You can do it on your own. So I just want to thank all of you. Do you all have anything to say just really quick before we leave? Any last closing statement? Yes, Diosselyn.
I do. I actually want to highlight what Stephenie said, just adding on to everything Deanna said, because it's totally true. Remember what Stephenie said, document, speak out, do not stay quiet, because things have to change. And honestly, documentation, I know it sounds like an icky thing to do. I know it doesn't sound fun, but I've done it. It took months, but it happened. So document, because at the end of the day, it shows way more of what you're capable of. It shows your professionalism. It shows your skills. And it just speaks wonders on yourself besides the other person. Yeah, the other person caused this and did that. And I don't want to say that let it go. Definitely don't let it go. But this is your way of fighting back and making something happen. And making something happen for somebody else as well. So please remember those tips that Stephenie gave, because I think they're very great to use. And I've done it.
Stephenie.
But it happens.
Stephenie. Stephenie was killing me.
I know. I do. I'm so horrible at it. I'm horrible at it. So yes, Stephenie.
Stephenie. Sorry about that.
Anyone else want to give some last words, parting words, or anything to say to the people watching right now?
I just want to say thank you for this opportunity, and I'm happy to meet all of you, grateful to know all of your stories, be inspired by you. And I think we just all need to keep working on the work. You know,
Yes.
we're going to make it better, if not for ourselves, for the next generation. And so thank you for all of you for this opportunity.
Yeah, same here. I appreciate some of the young Latinas that are up and coming, and look forward to all that you are going to do to pave the way for my kids and the kids after, to make things how it really should be. So I look forward to working with you or finding a way to know how to help.
And I would say, once again, thank you so much. Thank you, Deanna, for the work that you're doing in bringing us all together. And like I said, you know, as we continue to move forward to figure out and bring the Black and Brown community together, step by step, issue by issue, when one community hurts, we all hurt. And so how we have a connected, not only struggle, but triumph in this work together. And so thank you all so much for allowing me and creating the space for me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I guess I just want to say thank you for this platform, Deanna, that you created. I'm glad that we finally were able to connect and to collaborate. I've learned a lot this evening. I just want to, you know, my thing is just to always create your own path. Go above and beyond what you think people have set for you and what you've even in your mind set for yourself. And that's really it for me.
I guess last but not least, I thank you so much for this platform, just being able to speak about our own individual experiences being valid. That's so powerful. Doesn't matter whether I have a degree or not, you know, it's just as meaningful. And just amplify that documentation is literally what got me through undergrad. I've had a fight to get out of a professor's class because my grammar wasn't good enough. And so like these can occur like, you know, anywhere. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, and you've been great.
Well, I just want to say thank you again, everybody. And for everybody that's watching, sorry, my dog's going to go crazy in a minute, but I just want to say thank you so much. Your stories are all powerful. And Stephenie, just to kind of reiterate what you said earlier, when we put this platform together and we share, you feel like you're not alone. you know, you feel like you have somebody to reach out to. You feel like there's somebody out there living something that you're living with, and you're not just here alone trying to figure it out. So I just appreciate you all making me feel like I'm not alone. And I just love seeing the building of bridges from the Black community and the Latino community. And I just hope that we continue that, and it'll be stronger than ever. I promise you, we will make it stronger than ever. And I'm so amazed by all of what you all do and your voices. So just thank you for being here. I just appreciate you so much. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, go ahead.
One last thing. Vanessa Guillen's murder was a result of workplace violence, and Breonna Taylor's murderers are still free.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erica, for bringing that up. That is so important. Thank you for bringing that. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And this is why these things are so important to talk about and bring out to the forefront. So yes, these conversations will continue. I'm almost feeling like we need to do like a monthly thing. So thank you all. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for the comments. We'll read all the comments out there. We appreciate you all. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.